And what's up, family? It's your man, Mark Clark. And again, it's time for the Buffs conversation. Why do they hate DEION? Why don't they get it? As you found out last week, before each Buffs game, I'm going to give you a prediction and my thoughts. So, of course, tonight, the game is until 10 o'clock tonight. So there's a full roster of college football ahead of you this afternoon. In fact, me and the wife are heading down to Howard University to see Howard versus, we're not going to Howard University? Oh, it's Audi Field. Okay. Audi Field, Hampton versus Howard. Oh, okay. Okay. So that's going on. So that's exciting. So very, very interesting week. It was funny because, this journey has been crazy. Now, many of you have been following this on YouTube. DEION's son has Well Off Media. So he's captured every day, basically not every day, but I'm sorry, ever since the beginning of the journey. So you had a chance to see how, he made his entrance, that conversation that's now, I guess a classic when he says, I'm bringing my own Louis, right? He's bringing his own luggage. So many of the players, he told them, if you want to play, you're going to have to play. And if you don't, get in the portal because I need some players who are going to play. And I brought my own bags, meaning his own players. So that was captured. And so if you've been following it, Well Off Media, has hundreds of thousands of views, if not millions at this point. And those who were fans, of the team were the first joiners, obviously, then the people who were just curious about this journey. So we actually had a chance to see these players, get to know them. And now that it's in real time, and they have kind of superseded the expectations and have the whole college football world, the whole sports world in a frenzy. And so it seems like each week something happens. It's almost surreal. It's almost surreal. It's almost frightening, because again, nobody expected, I don't say nobody expected, but to start off and have this kind of coverage, this kind of success, this kind of narrative is totally unexpected. I think college football is in shock. The networks obviously are in shock, but they understand the money because what is this, the third week that they broadcast there at Colorado? A team that was won in whatever last season. It's crazy. It's crazy. And so now, to me, you start to see how people can really start hating because it's overkill. I think for people of a certain age, we didn't have this coming up. We didn't have all these platforms. We didn't have all this exposure. It's almost like the Beyonce effect. Like some people don't like, I don't like Beyonce. Why? They don't even know why. I think they don't because it's almost so much exposure. You can't hide from it. And you just look around, you're like, man, I can't escape this. So this is happening. This is definitely happening in football. In fact, this was just minutes ago, this was the kickoff of the broadcast. Again, they're not on until 10 o'clock tonight, but they're there in Colorado, and this is how it started.
What a morning. Buff Nation, please say hello to the most electrifying man in sports today, Coach Prime.
Let's go. Hey, Coach. Man, you got it set out here, man. They're going crazy.
We got it set out.
We got it set out. You walk out, Lil Wayne performing. Oh, what's that like? What's that like?
Lil Wayne?
Lil Wayne.
You mean to tell me Lil Wayne is at a college game performing before the game? It ain't no telling what he gonna do before we come out. We don't know about that, all right? We don't know about that. This is unbelievable. This is what college is supposed to be. Honestly, this is how it's supposed to be. All the kids are having a good time. The adults are being.
And so again, it's a lot. It's a lot. And I think a lot of people are either super excited because they've been on the journey, or some people are super irritated because they cannot stand this guy. And speaking of can't stand this guy, earlier, the CSU coach had a meltdown, or not a meltdown. He says it wasn't a meltdown. He says he was firing up his team. But if you hadn't seen it by now, they were asking the CSU coach has his own podcast, a CSU coach. He had this to say about DEION.
you know, we had to do a bunch of ESPN videos, and it was great. I loved it. But our kids came out of those videos really with a chip on their shoulder. They're tired of all that stuff. They really are tired of it. And I sat on with ESPN today, and I don't care if they hear it in Boulder. I told them I took my hat off and I took my glasses off, and I said, when I talk to grown-ups, I take my hat and my glasses off. That's what my mother taught me. So, you know, they're not going to like us no matter what we say or do. It doesn't matter, okay? So let's go up there.
So he says, you know, when I talk to grown-ups, I take my hat and my glasses off. And now he says that was talking about firing up his team. But that rings, I mean, what are we talking about? I think this is, it's interesting. Now, this is, you know, Coach Jay Norvell is another African-American coach. And earlier in the week, that was the storyline. It was like 2 African-American coaches, you know, in Colorado. How crazy is that? And then he had the comment, which made everything weird. And it's just like the question becomes, what are you trying to say there? You know, I think he was overwhelmed. Back to what we were talking about from the start. I think he was overwhelmed because all of the coverage, you know, it went from being, you know, you're at Colorado State and you had a okay record, but nobody's really checking for you. It goes from that to being front and center. ESPN is there. Everybody's asking you questions. The players now being interviewed. So it went from, it kind of upset the apple cart as far as how things are normally done. And that's kind of what's happening. And like I said, purists and some people, traditionalists, are upset. They don't like it. Other people see the power in it and how once you let the genie out of the bottle, you can't put it back. And the thing about a DEION is there's only one DEION Sanders. And, you know, we say that, I mean, there's only one of all of us, obviously, right? But when you say that, we're talking about the guy who really did bring the game to the game. Now, when he says that, it sounds super arrogant, but he's absolutely true. Because just think about it. As an 18, 19-year-old football player, who's thinking like that? He's in college. He's the best defensive back in college. He knows that the NFL is not playing defensive backs. So he hatches the plan of, I'm going to, with this Jerry curl and this gold and this flashiness, I'm going to create a character. I'm going to create a character that makes them not only notice me, but have to pay me more money in a position that was not a glamour position until he made it that. And in fact, he did that. He got drafted, he got the money, and the rest was history. And I love the fact that when you talk to, you know, the old, I can't even think of her name, the volleyball player, played for Florida, Gabby. She said when she was in college, she was a sophomore, and she talked to him and he told her the same thing. Look, you're playing, nobody's checking for volleyball. You're going to have to do stuff to make people check for it, right? So the conscious idea of promoting and marketing yourself, that in itself by itself is pretty special. But to then also be the very best at your position, you know, for as long as you play the game, check mark, that's special. Then also play another sport. I mean, remember, he played in the Super Bowl and the World Series and was a good baseball player too. So perhaps the greatest athlete of his generation. He's in the conversation. You know, it's Bo Jackson, Deion Sanders, Jim Brown. You know, usually those are what people mention, the greatest athlete of the generation. So all that plus having the kids. Now, this is the part I think that people don't understand that motivates all this is that in addition to coaching his kids all these years, he had the kids that played with his kids. And it's all if you're participating in sports, you know, these travel teams, it's a whole system. And so while he was doing everything that he was doing from playing football, then he retired and was an announcer, he still was coaching his kids. His kids, he's always coached his kids. He's been the only coach that his kids have had. And so that gives you a certain insight that nobody else really has, you know. And when I say nobody else has, you're saying nobody else who has the background that he has, right? Nobody else has done all the things that he's done. So therefore, that's the piece that makes him one of one. And so now we're on this journey. he's dominating everything in sports as far as coverage goes. Tonight should be an easy win, but the next two afterwards, that's going to be the real interesting space, because if he somehow beats Oregon or USC, now this is crazy. It's already exceptional. It's already, setting him up to get all the great players he wants, because best believe all these players want to hop on the portal to join this team. But if he does those upsets, then it really has turned everything on its ear. Now, as far as the coach, the African-American coach that he's facing tonight, Jay Norvell, and that kind of dust up, it reminds you of when DEION had the dust up with Eddie Robinson.
The last play of the game, and that does it. Jackson State moves to 5-0, 12th straight conference win for the Tigers, and they spoil the homecoming of the Hornets. 26-12 is the final score. Oh, a little heated exchange there in midfield between Coach Prime and Coach Eddie Robinson Jr. for Jay Walker.
So remember that dust up, and again, they since apologized and worked it all out. And, there were many different reasons, but I think it really speaks to, it's the same thing with Jay Norvell, I believe. I believe that from HBCUs to now, this level of college football, the coaches feel like, hey, I've been out here busting my butt all these years. Nobody's saying nothing. I'm not getting the attention. I'm not getting all these things that this guy gets. And he comes in here and he gets everything, right? So it's like the ego gets caught up in this. Just because he's DEION doesn't mean he's better than me. Doesn't mean he coaches better than me. I've been doing this for, 20 years. He hadn't been doing this on the collegiate level like me. I think the human side comes out and the egos come out, because this is what makes these coaches great, right? This is what makes people successful. Everybody feels like they're the best. Everybody has to feel like they're the best. And there's nothing wrong with that. It just, I think you get put in the fishbowl. Especially, I think this is new because this is the new world we're in. And now everything's in the fishbowl, success and failure. And so that's the part that I think people don't really understand, or not understand, but imagine if it was the opposite. Imagine if DEION failed and hadn't won yet. Can you imagine how much heat that would be? But see, that's the part we don't talk about, because, as long as you win, then we you just see all the good. But imagine, even if he loses tonight against the team that, before the season started, they would have said is better because Colorado was so terrible. But now the expectations are higher. So now comes the expectations to win. So if the team somehow loses this game tonight, then you'll see the backlash. But I don't think that's going to happen. And so, and before I wrap things up, I was looking up arrogance. I was just thinking about that, how so many people do not like DEION, period. I mean, and have not liked DEION. Some people have never liked DEION, right? And I know a lot of people don't like arrogance. And so I was thinking about it. I said, arrogance. I never have been bothered by that with him. I think because of the proof was in the pudding and whatever he's talking about, I really felt like he kind of said it with a wink, and it was almost like it was marketing promotion. And so I looked up arrogance. So unpleasantly proud, behaving as if you are more important than you are, no more than other people, right? So it's interesting because I never really broke down arrogance before, but unpleasantly proud. I think that part right there is interesting, because some people don't like that. When you are super proud, or you have no problem telling people who you are or how you feel about yourself, that's a turnoff for a lot of people, right? It's a turnoff for a lot of people. Behaving as if you are more important than you are. Same thing. And behaving as if you're more important than you are. I think the caveat when it comes to sports with DEION and his career, it's pretty much not, it's almost like you look at a Steph Curry, right? Steph Curry is, many would say, is humble, right? Some people like that. People like you to be, yes, I have changed the game. I've revolutionized the game. There are kids who want to play like me, but I'm super, super humble, right? DEION's never been that. DEION says, I changed the game. I made this position worthy of getting paid. I was the best that ever did it. Whatever you want to say, right? And so some people hate that, and that's why they hate that arrogance. And then know more than other people. This is the part that I think is funny about people who are that way. When people say that you think you know more than, well, in this case, he does when it comes to motivating young Black athletes and showing them how to get to the NFL and showing them how to play the positions that he played, right? So his program, and this is the part, and I'll wrap up, about the program that I think people miss who don't like him. This is the part that he did at the program that would make, if I'm a parent, me want to send my kid to play for him. He selected coaches who are not only head coaches, former NFL coaches, but also coaches he's had relationships with a long time. So you're sending, the kids are getting an opportunity to get a level of coaching that you will not get other places, because even in the college programs, the Nick Saban, and the different, the Alabamas and the Clemsons, you don't necessarily have guys who were NFL coaches, right? So if, again, your child is a Division I star and they go with DEION, not only will you get access to the coaches, he's a great receiver. The receivers coach is a former NFL coach or NFL lineman coach. Not only that, you're going to get to rub elbows with the greatest that ever played too, because DEION has that kind of relationship. So you're talking about linebackers. Well, Ray Lewis is going to come up in there and talk to them. You're talking about receivers. Michael Irvin, T.O. is going to be around. Talk about, whatever position you talk about, they're going to rub elbows with those kind of, those people and be inspired by them. And then not only the sports piece, everything else that comes with it. And so this is the challenge that other teams will now have to face. And this is why everything is almost like in an uproar, because this means that other programs are now having to think about it. I heard somebody say, everybody's now saying, well, we need to get our own DEION in these programs. But that's a mistake, because there's only one. There are other players that are great players, but they don't have college age kids that they coached all the way up, and they don't have the history, track record, relevance. Because remember now, DEION's 50-something years old, but he's still relevant for young people. A lot of that's because of his kids and the social media piece, and he stayed relevant, right? Just think, most 50-year-olds aren't relevant to young people. And so it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting how it plays out. But now it's time for my prediction. I have the Buffaloes 37, CSU 14. Do not bet any money on it. If you do, put a little extra on it for me. Put a little something on it for me. All right. Have a great day, great afternoon. Whenever you're watching this, have a great life, and make sure you check in every week before the game, because I'll give you my prediction, my thoughts, and be safe, and talk to you soon. Peace.